A classic of ancient wisdom literature, the Book of Job addresses complex issues regarding suffering, human nature, and the nature of God. God responds to Job's questions at the book's conclusion with a series of rhetorical questions. These questions include explanations of the mysterious animals Behemoth and Leviathan. The Behemoth is described in Job chapter 40 verses 15 through 24. Behold, Behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength is in his loins, and his power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. He is the first of the works of God. Let him who made him bring near his sword. For the mountains yield food for him, where all the wild beasts play. Under the lotus plants he lies, in the shelter of the reeds and the marsh. For his shade the lotus trees cover him. The willows of the brook surround him. Behold, if the river is turbulent, he is not frightened. He is confident. Thou Jordan rushes against his mouth. Can one take him by his eyes, or pierce his nose with a snare? The way the giant is depicted in Job chapter 40 gives us the impression that this beast, which Job was familiar with, was unconquerable and fearless. Although it is impossible to tell what species the behemoth is, we do know that it is a plant-eating animal that dwells close to water. It feels at home even in a flooded, turbulent river. The behemoth is extremely powerful and muscular. In fact, verse 19 states that it ranks first among the works of God, and that only its creator can control it. The behemoth has been referred to by some people as an elephant, rhinoceros, or hippopotamus. But the description of its cedar-like tail in Job chapter 40 verse 17 scarcely corresponds to those animals' short or rope-like tails. One such hypothesis is that Job 40 refers to a particular species of dinosaur, such as the Diplodocus or an Apatosaurus. Such sauropods might rightfully be referred to as the kings of the animal kingdom, because they were the largest of all land animals, being 10 times heavier than elephants, loved marshy environments, and had tails like trees. According to biblical doctrine, Behemoth must have been among the animals created on the same day as humans. We don't know when dinosaurs went extinct, but according to the Bible, it's likely that some survived during Job's time. The Leviathan. The Leviathan is some kind of enormous aquatic creature. It is described in the Bible as a terrifying beast with grotesque ferocity and enormous power. The origin of the Hebrew word for Leviathan means coiled or twisted. The sea monster is referred to as Leviathan, the fast-moving serpent, Leviathan, the squirming serpent, in Isaiah 27 verse 1. Whatever this sea monster is, or was, it was well renowned for its power and untamed temperament. The Leviathan is mentioned a few times in the Old Testament. It is typically described as a genuine beast, known to people, if not by sight, then at least by reputation. God is praised in Psalm chapter 104 verses 25 and 26. There is a sea, vast and spacious, teeming with creatures beyond number, living things both large and small. There the ships go to and fro, and Leviathan, which you formed to frolic there. Leviathan could have only been created by a powerful God, who then established a space large enough for it to frolic in safety. The Leviathan is a representation of the evil monarchs of the earth in Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1, who oppose God's people. God assures his children that evil, no matter how monstrous, will be vanquished. In that day the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword, Leviathan the gliding serpent, Leviathan the coiling serpent. He will slay the monster of the earth with the rod of his mouth. Similar language about God's triumph over Leviathan can be found in Psalm chapter 74 verse 14, which is most likely referring to Egypt's Pharaoh. Job chapter 41 has the most information regarding Leviathan as a real sea creature. In that chapter, God describes Leviathan, highlighting its size, power, and viciousness. It is preferable to leave the Leviathan alone because it cannot be restrained or subdued and is terrifying to simply look upon. Despite having an elegant shape, the Leviathan is extremely well protected by scales. Its back and chest are both impermeable. Anyone who enters its gaping maw risks death due to its terrifying teeth. The Leviathan terrifies even strong men. It cannot be defeated by a sword, spear, dart, javelin, arrow, stone, club, or lance. It cannot be caged, because it smashes iron like straw. The Leviathan leaves a trail of ruts on land and a deep, turbulent wake in the sea. God describes it as equal to nothing, a creature without fear. So what kind of animal does Job 41 refer to? According to some commentators, Leviathan is a crocodile. Some people think it's a whale or a shark. The biblical account suggests that Leviathan is more likely a gigantic marine reptile, probably a type of dinosaur, like a plesiosaurus. Given that the book of Job is set in a very early period of history, Job's encounter with a dinosaur is not at all unbelievable. Leviathan is governed by God's omnipotence, as God argues in Job chapter 41. Job has been challenging God. See Job chapter 26 through 31. But God turned the tables and highlighted Job's vulnerability and fragility by using the Leviathan's power. How mighty is God if he created Leviathan, an animal Job cannot stand in front of? Why is Job even attempting to argue with the all-powerful? Experienced warriors would turn and flee from Leviathan because of its threat. Leviathan is a real sea creature that answers entirely to its creator. According to God's description of the Leviathan, who then can stand against me? Who has a calm against me that I must pay? Everything under heaven belongs to me. It is hard to know for sure what present-day or extinct creatures the Behemoth and Leviathan were. Were Behemoth and Leviathan actual creatures in Job's time? Or were they mythical beings that the ancient people believed to be real? Are they similar to the beasts depicted in old atlases, with the legend, "There be dragons," at the edge outside the known world? Many people will fiercely argue that Behemoth and Leviathan were actual beasts, albeit possibly embellished to some extent for impact. And it appears that their primary justification for this claim has to do with how they perceive the inerrancy or veracity of the scriptures. If Behemoth and Leviathan were not real, it would mean the Bible has errors, which it doesn't. However, it is obvious that a fire-breathing, multi-headed sea serpent like Leviathan has mythological elements, and numerous Jewish writings attribute mythological characteristics to these two animals. One of these is found outside the Bible in 1 Enoch chapter 60 verses 7 and 8. And on the day two monsters were separated one from another, a female monster named Leviathan, to dwell in the abyss of the ocean over the fountains of the waters, and the male is named Behemoth, who occupied within his breast a wasted wilderness named Duedain, on the east of the garden where the elect and righteous dwell. These sources don't have the same authority as the Bible. However, they do demonstrate that these beasts were more than just hippopotamuses and crocodiles in at least some medieval Jewish beliefs. I believe it's crucial to comprehend the significance of Behemoth and Leviathan's inclusion in Job. Why did God include them in his response to Job and his friends? What was God trying to accomplish? Throughout Job, we witness Job's associates make an effort to persuade him that he has disobeyed God and is therefore being punished. Job responds by claiming his innocence and requesting the chance to argue his case before God. Finally, God responds to Job in Job chapter 38 through 41. God has never explained Job's circumstances. Instead, he questions Job's own knowledge and skill. God appears to be informing Job that despite his recent sufferings, he was unable to understand what God was doing. The Behemoth and Leviathan descriptions can be found in God's interrogation of Job. Even though they are the most terrifying beasts, God has power over them. Job was convinced that these animals existed, whether they were mythical or real, and God used them to show Job that he was far wiser and more powerful than anything he could have imagined, and that everything in creation is under God's control and protection. Does it really matter what Behemoth and Leviathan were? Or even that they were actual beings or just mythical creatures that Job and his listeners thought were real? Although some might contend that it does not matter, I do not think it does. Whatever the truth of these animals, what God is saying to Job is accurate. God is in charge of everything. His ways are higher than ours and beyond our comprehension. Sometimes we just have to put our trust in Him and realize that nothing is impossible for Him. According to what we know so far from the book of Job, neither justice nor innocence can entirely account for why we suffer or don't suffer. Not all suffering is a result of sin. Not all blessings come because of our merit. Additionally, suffering can occur completely out of the blue. Chaos sometimes appears to be the only option. We think that God's master plan may not exist. Sometimes, chaos's forces simply triumph. However, Job is reminded in God's final discourse to him that he is not blind to any suffering. He is more powerful than any chaos monster there is, and God shows it by taking on the form of an innocent victim. Jesus was in the hands of unpredictable powers. One of Jesus' followers turned on him, the others fled. Jesus was brought before a cowardly Pilate and envious Pharisees, who flogged him pointlessly before an enraged mob arbitrarily cleared a murderer so that an innocent man could be killed. In a game of chance, soldiers even rolled a die to determine who would strip Jesus naked. Jesus' death appeared to lack structure and a grand plan, just chaotic evil let loose on a helpless victim. But God was in control of everything surrounding Jesus' death. According to the Apostle Peter, God's predetermined plan was truly carried out by Jesus' unlawful crucifixion. His grand scheme included the greatest chaotic event in human history, the suffering and unjust death of the Son of God. Jesus demonstrates that our suffering cannot be the result of unchecked chaos, since God has it under control. Leviathan and Pilate are unable to escape from him. Both Job and Jesus encourage us to humble ourselves before a God whose Leviathan-like power governs behemoth-like chaos, rather than accusing God of causing our pain.